Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's a real privilege to speak here today, to look forward together to the adoption of a new Sustainable Development Agenda for the world we want by 2030. But before we look ahead, I want for a moment to look back. I was 15 at the time of the Millennium Declaration. Since then, we've seen enormous progress, albeit uneven in places. Halving the number of people living in extreme poverty, 2 billion people gaining access to safe drinking water, 90% of children in primary school, incredible citizen mobilization. Business has helped drive this progress, connecting people, building infrastructure, generating employment. Yet, business as usual has also come at a great cost. Unbridled market behaviour created the biggest financial crisis since the Great Depression, pushing 130 million people back below the poverty line. Benefits have not been shared fairly, and inequalities have reached frightening levels. Oxfam estimates the wealth of the richest 1% will exceed the combined wealth of 99% of the human population next year. At the same time, we're witnessing a planetary emergency. The highest extinction rates since the dinosaurs, 60% of our ecosystems in decline, dangerous levels of GHG concentrations in the atmosphere, with the resulting change in our climate already costing lives. While there are myriad reasons we've arrived at this juncture, we recognise much of the blame rests with the principles and practices of business as usual. It's therefore no surprise why there's such mistrust of business in shaping the post-2015 agenda. Business has indeed been a big part of the problem, but we believe it can and must be part of the solution. After all, in the developing world alone, business accounts for 60% of GDP, 80% of capital flows, and 90% of job creation. For the world to change course, business needs to change course too. A critical mass of companies have already started to move. They see sustainable development not only as a moral imperative, but a commercial necessity. Whether it's the $45 trillion worth of assets that OECD predicts to be at risk of flooding by 2050, or KPMG's prediction that places the entire profit of the food industry at risk by 2030, business recognizes that we need to act. A clear example of leadership is the We Mean Business Coalition, which now represents more than 6 million companies, including the B Team, which includes leaders like Paul Polman from Unilever, Sir Richard Branson, Mohammed Yunus, Mo Ibrahim. Everyone in We Mean Business is focused on taking bold climate action. For these companies, the business case is clear. From shipping lanes disrupted by extreme weather and failing crop yields, to the significant economic opportunities, with investors already receiving an internal rate of return of between 20 and 80% on low-carbon investments, and the potential of more than 60 million jobs to be created in the new climate economy. And as the penny drops for more and more businesses, we're seeing a major shift in mindset. 3/4 of the world's largest businesses have already set clear social and environmental goals. 4,000 are reporting on CO2 emissions, and 50 of the top 200 have set an internal price on carbon. They have been joined by 350 global investors, representing over $24 trillion in assets, calling for a stable, reliable, and economically meaningful price on carbon, and plans to phase out fossil fuel subsidies. Just last week in Paris, companies like Infosys, Mars, Unilever, and IKEA affirmed their own commitments to be powered 100% by renewable energy. Companies like Honda and Xerox have set emissions reduction targets in line with the science. Companies like Aetna in the US, increasing the minimum wage of their lowest paid workers by over 30%. Or Natura in Brazil, which is using its own business model to help restore the Amazon and empower indigenous communities. These are the solutions we need to hasten a just transition. The power of this agenda is that it's universal, and we need more companies to think this way, to recognize that business can't thrive where there is conflict. It can't thrive where talent is wasted, where children go hungry, or where our environment is unsafe. That's why the B team has called for an ambitious long-term goal in Paris to achieve a thriving net zero emissions economy by 2050. A clear signal from governments can unleash innovation and entrepreneurship to help grow our economies within the boundaries set by nature, while lifting millions of people out of poverty. Ambition is growing day to day with each announcement and commitment. The global march towards sustainability will only grow stronger after September and through Paris, as a critical mass of business people provide a countervailing force to traditional vested interests, operating according to the highest collective ambition instead of the slowest common denominator. This new form of business leadership is a crucial part of a virtuous circle, where policy certainty unlocks investment potential, which brings costs down and catalyses new solutions, which then inspires greater ambition. But in order to accelerate progress, we need to find clear ways for business to play a positive role alongside civil society in reaching the SDGs by 2030. We must build a compelling business case, tools that raise awareness of the risks of inaction and the opportunities that lie ahead. We must communicate not only the individual goals, but what they stand for. We must establish clear metrics for companies to measure their own progress against specific goals. And this has already started with leadership from the World Business Council on Sustainable Development, the Global Compact, GRI. But we need companies everywhere to take these metrics to scale. We need to forge coalitions of the willing, galvanizing companies and industries to advance specific goals by making clear commitments. Globally and at a country level, there's still no clear or inclusive mechanism for business to take this action, whether it's convening the pharmaceutical industry to scale access to affordable medicine, adopting a global living wage, or harnessing technology to provide sustainable energy for all. Ultimately, to reach the SDGs, we need to build accountability for transforming business models at a global scale. We can't reverse inequality without changing how business distributes value. We can't stop climate change without companies valuing natural capital. We can't achieve gender equality without inclusive business models that respect human rights. These new approaches require business leaders with different mindsets and capabilities, women and men who can successfully build cross-sector coalitions, who are as familiar working with civil society and policymakers as they are with customers and suppliers, and who are comfortable operating in a more volatile and complex environment. There are no blueprints for how to do this, or roadmaps on how to navigate our way toward this new brave new world. It will require unprecedented collaboration, concerted action by all of us. We can't wait till the seas have turned black or the forests have burned to mobilize global collective action. My greatest hope is that in 100 years' time, when the historians look back on this period, they will see 2015 as a tipping point of the second great industrial revolution, a just transition, a year which changed the course of history forever, a year in which leaders from business, government and civil society worked with, not against each other, forging the foundation of a bright future where no one was left behind, where human dignity was preserved, a world of sustainable, inclusive prosperity for all. Thank you.